Welcome to this Tuesday edition of NMH at 1, your lunchtime news and current affairs program. We're glad to take you through the lunch hour with the latest happenings across Namibia and beyond. My name is Diana Master and I will be keeping you company throughout today's broadcast. In the news today, residents of Swakopmund honored those killed in the Nama and Herero genocide by cleaning up and restoring the genocide war graves. An urban agriculture project emphasizes the importance of gardening. Namibia ranked among the countries with the highest debt to GDP ratio. And on day one of the 2022 Toyota SASAPD Championships with countries such as Kenya, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Sierra Leone, Cameroon and Botswana, as well as 9 South African provinces, a group of 20 Namibian athletes secured 9 gold, 1 silver and 4 bronze medals. These stories and more in today's program. Stay with us. In today's midday update, the city of Windhoek cannot account for endowment and betterment fees paid to them by residents and businesses of Brugwater for over the past 18 years. This money had to be placed in 2 specific accounts for Brugwater, but almost 2 decades later, the city of Windhoek allegedly cannot show where the funds went. According to a member of the representatives of the Brugwater Advisory Committee, it is already 10 years on from Council Decision 267 of 2012, and still none of these funds have been placed in any Brugwater specific financial item. The committee member added that residents are willing to pay the increased 9% for the endowment fee, provided that the city guarantees these funds with interest for future bulk services in the area and that developers are not expected to finance all bulk services themselves. Stay with us as we bring you more local news across the regions after this ad break. Welcome back. Getting into today's video news. Residents of Swakopmund gathered yesterday for a cleanup and restoration of genocide war graves where late Herero and Nama people were buried. This clip is by Nikano Nangolo. Let's have a look.
and we are at the Swakopmund memorial site where thousands of our Herero and Nama people were buried. So we are basically cleaning and restoring the graves.
In our second story, in which Pandeka Secondary School in GOtv hosts their annual career fair today and invited learners from all over northern Namibia to get career advice, opportunities, and get inspired by the number of inspirational speakers on their lineup today. Tinoole Mungomba was there.
You guys, so we are waiting for you. This is what I said. So the government is united by an active person, acting as a social power. We fall under this higher education, just like us. They also go the university of education, to mention that. So we fall under the mix of higher education, not basic, before the education. Government. So we result under the use of higher education, just like us, the University of Namibia, and other public universities as well. So you can see that it's there for you, waiting for you. You need just to work very hard, okay, and make sure that. Really fun. That's really fun. Are we together? That's why they I think that better say pay your role, you're not so wrong. It's not only for you, but at least we are telling you as well that one day you'll be holding this mic.
Robim Uyaha, Urban Agriculture Project Coordinator of the municipality, shares the importance of having your own backyard garden. A beneficiary of the grant, Edla Kathondandona, extends her gratitude. Micheline Nawatises covered the story.
We are here today to witness the official handover of the grant through the e-watchers card. This grant is facilitated by ERS on behalf of UNDP under the Build Back Better project, and the e-watcher cards will be used to purchase material from selected participating retailers locally in Swakopmund. Our goal as a local authority remains to coordinate and promote urban agriculture as part of our strategic plan. We vision one backyard garden. We vision one backyard garden. And this can only be achieved if the community demonstrates interest and commitment. Your president today demonstrates interest by applying. And your president today demonstrates interest by being here today. But we need to see your commitment towards this initiative. As part of the Sustainable Coastal Gardening Community Program, there will be an evaluation and monitoring program implemented. We need to use your projects as benchmark. We need to see result. It's not just getting a grant and pretending you got the grant. We need to see result. So the municipality will be working with you from today until forever. Today's event is the greatest milestone for food security, nutritional diet, and employment creation. With those remarks, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to leave you with a quote that says, "A bend in the road is not the end of the road until you fail to make the turn." So there will be challenges. We are here, we are not champions, but you can tap into our experience. You are not alone. Don't go start your project and fail. Come talk to us. We have experienced people in this town that deal with desert agriculture concept. We are in line with UNAM Hentisby campus. We have a professional on board. So please, my phrase remains, unless you fail to make the turn. With those remarks, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, we strongly believe it's about time. Namibia is a nation, Namibia is a country. We eat what we produce and only produce what we eat. With those remarks, I say thank you.
My name is Edla Gavandandona. I heard about this project last year, December, and I applied. So I got accepted, and this year I become an official recipient of this program. So I previously had a garden before the program, but now I'm very happy that I got funded and I'm going to expand my garden. Previously I used to plant like green peppers, tomatoes, herbs, cauliflower, broccoli, carrots and spinach. But now I'm going to expand to more other vegetables as well. I'm so happy to feed my community or my friends and also to make some little bucks for my pocket. I'm so grateful to UND. Thank you.
When we return, we will be taking a sneak inside Namibia's daily print publications. But first, a quick ad break. Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. We now take a look at what the lead stories are in Namibia's daily newspapers. On the Namibian Sun front page, it focuses on the scenes of hungry people who were turned away at the Independence Day celebrations at the Veneta Stadium. Local residents questioned why the invited dignitaries enjoyed preferred state security protocol. On its page 4, the Namibian Sun lays are not being tackled with the required urgency. Labor researcher Herbert Jout says post-independence introductions of workers' rights and is dubbed the most of the much larger transnational Kavango Zambezi Transfrontier Conservation Area, which also encompasses large parts of the neighboring countries Angola, Botswana, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. Conservationists and the intrusion of humans and their animals would very likely lead to human-wildlife conflict. As might be expected, there was no immediate outcome so far from the initial meeting between the traditional authority and the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Constitutional and Legal Affairs. Allgemeine Zeitung reports on a public protest in Windhoek city centre on Saturday to stand up for women's right to end unwanted pregnancies legally and safely. The Yes to Choice march was held before a report of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Gender Equality is soon to be published. Abortions in Namibia remain almost completely banned, and therefore safe abortions are hardly possible. Even senior officials in the Ministry of Health had recommended the committee deliver a modernization and adaptation to reality. Studies show that sub-Saharan Africa has the world's highest rates of female deaths related to abortion. The Namibian reports on the government's intentions for the future of the Central Procurement Board and to ban the officials and directors of public entities from bidding for tenders at the state institutions where they work. Finance Minister Ipumbu Shimi tabled a raft of amendments to the Public Procurement Act in Parliament last week, paving the way for the appointment of the CEO of the tender agency and to do away with dual roles in the procurement board. The contract of the board's chairperson, Patrick Swartz, expires at the end of the month, and he has indicated that he is not available for reappointment. Moving over to the Namibian page 3, a former murder convict that had served 10.5 years in prison for killing a woman he had been in a relationship with notched up a second conviction on a murder charge on Friday, 27 years after he was first found guilty. The first time, the 58-year-old Petras Gogobeb is facing another lengthy sentence after being found guilty of stabbing his girlfriend Josephine Africana to death in Kobabis in July. We'll now take a quick ad break and come back with more news from Namibia's daily newspapers. Stay tuned. The lead story in New Era quotes from President Hage Geingoob's speech at the independence celebrations held in Swakopmund. Geingob told the invited guests that it is understandable that Namibians want more because they have seen how far the country has come and rightfully believe that this nation can go further. However, he called it incomprehensible and deplorable for some Namibians to claim that nothing has been achieved for the past 32 years or that the days of the racist apartheid Southwest Africa were better than those of post-independent Namibia. And finally, New Era reports on last Saturday's boxing tournament held at the northern border town of Nafidi, where welterweight Charles Shinima was one of the most impressive performers in his brutal knockout win over his South African opponent. Shinima knocked out Msiwokolo Ndwayana out cold during round 2, retaining both his unbeaten record in 14 professional fights and holding onto his WBO Africa welterweight belt. The front page of Market Watch examines the Namibian Competition Commission's announced investigation into possible discriminatory conduct by the Bankers Association of Namibia, as well as Bank Fintech, FNB Namibia, Nedbank Namibia, and Standard Bank Namibia. Allegations of unreasonably high and unfair prices relating to the home loan process, discriminatory conduct, and the historic fixing of interchange rates have resulted in the Competition Commission launching 2 investigations into the local banking sector. Discriminatory conduct is alleged in that the banks apparently charge home loan clients an additional rate on top of interest rates determined as per the client's financial profile if such client has his or her main transactional day-to-day account with a competing banking institution. That's it for today's newspaper review. Fuel prices expected to continue rising, while Namibia is among the top 20 African countries with the highest debt to GDP ratio. We'll take a look at the world of economics and more when we return with economic news. Stay tuned. Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. In today's economic news, experts urge the public to brace themselves for an even higher cost of living following another anticipated fuel hike and unexpected increase in food prices. According to economic consultancy Econometrics Chief Director and economist Dr. Azar Jamin, while there was no need to panic, South Africa was looking at a steeper inflation than what was previously anticipated, but would unlikely be as severe as in other countries. He said it was unfair that inflation always beat wage increases, forcing people to stomach job and pay cuts, putting a lot of pressure on household spending, which ultimately forces them to live beyond their means. Courtesy of a report by Statista dated December 2021, here are some of the African countries with the highest debt to GDP ratios. Eritrea's national debt stands at 175.1% of the GDP, making it the highest debt to GDP ratio in Africa and ranked number 1 on the list, while the island nation Cabo Verde comes second with a debt to GDP ratio of 160.7%. Mozambique is ranked 3rd with a debt to GDP ratio of 133.6%, followed by Angola, which is 4th on the list with a debt to GDP ratio of 103.7%. Namibia is ranked 17th on the list with a debt to GDP ratio of 69.9%, while other countries on the top 20 list include Mauritius, Zambia, DRC, Ghana, South Africa, Kenya, and South Sudan. Pfizer Inc. yesterday said it was recalling some lots of blood pressure drug Accuritic and 2 authorized cheaper versions of the drug due to the presence of elevated levels of nitrosamine, a potential cancer-causing impurity. Pfizer said it has not received any reports of adverse events related to the drug to date. Nitrosamines are common in water and foods, including cured and grilled meats, dairy products, and vegetables. However, prolonged exposure to these impurities could increase the risk of cancer, although there is no immediate risk to patients taking the drug, Pfizer said. We now take a look at the latest economic indicators. The Namibian dollar has lost power against the British pound and US dollar, but trades higher against the euro. MTC stock prices rose by 1.90% on the NSX, while Namibian breweries shares will cost 0.02% more. Trustco Group Holding stock prices have dropped by 4.70%, while the local and overall index have increased. Brent crude oil continues to rise, now trading at $118.56. Zinc also saw a 2.98% increase, while these other commodities have lost value. When we return with news from Tanzania, which seeks to draft a new constitution in the near future. We bring you this and more stories from the African continent when we return. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We now take a look at latest news in our neighboring countries and later on extend to the rest of the globe. Tanzania will begin the process of drafting a new constitution after the 2025 general elections. A statement issued by State House says a new constitution will be among other long-term issues that will be addressed then. This comes after the release of the country's main opposition leader, Freeman Mbowe, who was charged with terrorism and stayed behind bars for 8 months before the charges were dropped in early March. He alleged his court case was politically motivated because he had started a movement demanding a new constitution. Last week, in an exclusive interview with the BBC, President Samia Suluhu Hassan refused to discuss the constitution, saying it was a matter between herself and Tanzanians. There has, however, been mounting pressure from activists and opposition parties demanding a new constitution. Ghana President Nana Akufo-Addo could reduce the salaries of appointees by between 20 and 30%, according to reports by local media. Salaries of ministers, heads of state enterprises, as well as heads of municipal and district assemblies will all be affected. The move is to protect social interventions such as the school feeding program, according to sources. Critical among the matters under discussion is whether to maintain the 20% cut across the board or increase it. One measure to keep the economy running that the government announced earlier this year is that the Treasury will reduce the allocation to metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies for the first quarter of 2022 by roughly 20%. We will be back with more stories after this break.
Choose your flex package with Paratus today. Sign up for ultra-fast fiber with the convenience of mobile LTE. That's 2 products in one bundle. It's new, it's one bill, and you can stay connected in more than one location.
For more information, visit paratus.africa/NA.
Always prepared. Paratus.
Welcome back. We now take a look at international news. 2 women in their 50s have died after a violent attack at a secondary school in the southern Swedish city of Malmö, police say. An 18-year-old student at the school has been arrested on suspicion of murder. Local media reports that he was armed with a knife and an axe, though police are yet to officially confirm details. The 2 women employees at Malmö Latin School were taken to hospital by ambulance but died of their injuries. About 50 people, both students and teachers, were in the building when the incident took place. The alleged attacker reportedly called emergency services himself and admitted to having killed 2 people, according to Swedish media. Rescuers in China scoured heavily forested slopes today for the victims, and flight recorders from a China Eastern Airlines jet that crashed in the mountains of southern Guangxi yesterday with 132 people on board. Parts of the Boeing 737-800 was strewn across mountain slopes charred by fire after China's first crash involving a commercial jetliner since 2010. Burnt remains of identity cards and wallets were also seen, state media reported. Chinese media carried brief highway video footage from a vehicle's dashcam, apparently showing a jet diving to the ground at an angle of about 35 degrees of vertical. Reuters could not immediately verify the footage. We now move on over to our sports news, starting off with our local sports news. Namibian para-athletes at the South African Sports Association for Physically Disabled National Championships have so far collected 22 medals in the competition and still counting. A group of 20 Namibian athletes are competing at the 2022 Toyota SASAPD Championships at the Germiston Stadium, with countries such as Kenya, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Sierra Leone, Cameroon and Botswana, as well as 9 South African provinces. The 2022 Rugby Africa Barties Under-20 Trophy will take place in Nairobi from 9 to 17 April, organizers have confirmed. Unlike the 2021 edition, which had only 3 teams participate, this year's event is set to attract 8 teams, namely Madagascar, Senegal, Tunisia, Zimbabwe, Ivory Coast, Namibia, Zambia, and Kenya. The Barties Under-20 Trophy is the Rugby Africa Under-20 Championships. Teams compete on an annual basis, and the winners of the competition earn the right to represent the African continent at the World Rugby Junior Trophy. Chess master Charles Akab clinched the Namibian chess champion title for a record-extending 8th time. The 2022 Namibian National Chess Closed Championships took place at Windhoek Showgrounds. We now move on over to our international sports stories. Italy are aiming for World Cup glory despite having to navigate a treacherous playoff path in order to get the 2022 tournament, with North Macedonia, the first barrier, standing in their way. The European champions will begin a potential 2-match mini-campaign in Palermo on Thursday, with missing a 2nd straight World Cup a real possibility, as a trip to either Turkey or Portugal awaits should they get through their semi-final. Italian rider Sani Colbrelli suffered a cardiorespiratory arrest after a sprint finish on the stage 1 of the Tour of Catalunya in Spain, organizers said on Monday. Bahrain victorious rider Colbrelli lost consciousness after finishing 2nd behind Australian Michael Matthews following an intense uphill dash for the line. According to the official statement of the Tour of Catalunya published in the evening, Colbrelli experienced an episode of loss of consciousness with convulsions and subsequent cardiorespiratory arrest. Tom Saintfiet, the Belgian coach who transformed Gambia from minnows to Africa Cup of Nations quarter-finalists this year, desperately wants to avoid the fate that befell Madagascar. Debutants Madagascar took the 2019 Cup of Nations in Egypt by storm, stunning Nigeria in a group match, then eliminating the Democratic Republic of Congo before falling to Tunisia in the quarterfinals. But as quickly as the Malagasy rose, they crashed, failing to make it to the 2021 Cup of Nations and winning only one of 6 World Cup qualifiers. We'll now take a quick ad break and return with highlights from the show. Stay tuned.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, welcome to another exciting edition.
In case you missed it, let's have a look at the highlights from the show. Tanzania will begin the process of drafting a new constitution after the 2025 general elections. 2 teachers died after a violent attack at a secondary school in the southern Swedish city of Malmö. An 18-year-old student at the school has been arrested on suspicion of murder. Namibian para-athletes at the South African Sports Association for Physically Disabled National Championships have so far collected 22 medals in the competition and still counting. Italy are aiming for World Cup glory despite having to navigate a treacherous playoff path in order to get the 2022 tournament, with North Macedonia and the first barrier standing in their way. Experts urge the public to brace themselves for an even higher cost of living following another anticipated fuel hike and unexpected increase in food prices. And with that, we have come to the end of the show. Thank you so much for staying with NMH at 1 and spending your lunch hour with me, Diana Master. Remember to tune in again tomorrow at 1 p.m. as we take you through the latest happenings in Namibia and beyond. But until then, here's a compilation of news from across the regions in Namibia. I've been your host, Diana Master. From me and the rest of the team, goodbye.
Choose your flex package with Paratus today. Sign up for ultra-fast fiber with the convenience of mobile LTE. That's 2 products in 1 bundle. It's new, it's 1 bill, and you can stay connected in more than 1 location.
For more information, visit paratus.africa/NA.
Always prepared. Paratus.
Good day and welcome to another episode of Regional Review. I'm Kenya Kambowe, the Namibia Media Holdings correspondent in the northeastern regions. As you can see, we are by the mighty Kavango River. Okay, on today's show, we'll be sharing with you highlights of events that unfolded in the northeastern regions over the past week. Also, we have an interview with Mr. Sebastian Chamba, who will be telling us about 32 years independence, how far has development come in the Kavango regions. Meanwhile, in history, today is World Day for Water, so check out the next video. Welcome back to the new segment on Regional Review. On today's show, we are going to look at two stories. One is the one of the St. Boniface College hostel father who was attacked by about 16 learners late last year. The second story is about the Hambukushu Traditional Authority and the Environment and Tourism Ministry over the Bobwata National Park. Our first story is about 16 grade 11 learners from St. Boniface College who were found guilty of attacking a 39-year-old hostel father late last year. They severely injured the man after they allegedly kicked and beat him with brooms and stones. The learners also damaged the windows of the hostel father's room, which they stoned. The victim, Rafael Shapwa, who has since lost his job, is currently fighting the school through the Rundu Labor Office, saying that he was unfairly dismissed because of the fight with the learners. In our second story, we look at how the Hambukushu Traditional Authority expressed grievances towards the Environment and Tourism Ministry as far as the management of the Bobwata National Park is concerned, saying that the ruling party nearly paid the price in the 2020 local and regional government elections following a threat by the Environment and Tourism Ministry to evict all livestock from the Bobwata National Park weeks ahead of the elections. In the 2015 regional election, SWAPO garnered 5,541 votes, but this was reduced to 2,995 in 2020. The Traditional Authority made the observation in a petition dated 6 November 2021 to Speaker of the National Assembly, Peter Kachavivi, in which it expressed grievances towards the Environment and Tourism Ministry as far as the management of the Bobwata National Park is concerned. The bone of contention is that communal farmers from Hambukushu currently graze and keep their livestock in the national park, while the Line Ministry is carrying out the 1999 Cabinet Directive that no cattle will be allowed in the national park or any other game park in the northeast of the country. This has since created tension between the two parties. In the petition, the Traditional Authority stated its case and indicated that the ministry's attempt to evict all livestock ahead of the 2020 local authority and regional council elections could have costed SWAPO votes. Njamba, we just celebrated 32 years of independence. Looking at the situation in the Kavango regions, especially Kavango is where you are based, what would you say? Are we independent? What's your view? Are we there? Are we where you expect us to be the 2 years after independence?
Yeah, happy independence Namibia to start with. That this is a struggle that people actually put up their life in front with guns. They stood up to fight for people, and then we managed to get political independence. But unfortunately, to economical independence, still a struggle that we're struggling with to get it right as a country. Being it, this is a country. Coming down to Kavango, the struggle here is even more real. Because if I have to reflect back, a few weeks ago, the president was interviewed by Al Jazeera. If anyone who followed that interview can see that even our president cannot connect in terms of breaking down the economy, how it's supposed to be. Because he cannot say, we people don't need land. Like we, let's say we the black people, we the Namibian, we the natives, we don't need land. And we can't claim the land back. Or people don't need land because they can't do anything with it. We need jobs. Jobs from where? People need land to work the land. After working the land, that's how they create jobs. So black, white, or colored whatsoever, we're supposed to have land. Availability to land so that people produce from there. No, that is the logic. Secondly, now coming down to Kavango, Kavango is still struggling really to move forward. This one, it has to do, if we reflect back, we can look at the representation, which is a very serious challenge. That we cannot sit far from the table and then we expect things to move. Nevertheless, we come down to the local authority. Local authority, the best thing that, the direction that we need to take, to say the truth, all along we've been failing. These plans of borehole there, whatsoever there, that the government is trying by all means to bring now to the people is a good move. But the local authorities, the councillors, are supposed to come up with initiatives, innovatives, on how can they be able to bring development to their people in terms of coming up with projects to produce food. Every house supposed to have access to water. Every house supposed to have projects such as gardens, and as well as have other projects like in Kavango, we have a serious problem of table, chairs, desks in schools. So we have timber. Why can't we use? We have to train. This is not something difficult to be realized. You just need to train few youth, bring them on board, fund them, give them all the resources that they need for them to produce table, desk, and stuff. Councillors are supposed to compete on how many tables or chairs are we producing in our local constituencies per year. Because we can't talk about GDP, Namibia is rich GDP and stuff. No, we have to narrow this one down to the local level as to how do we want really to see, how do we want to really to show the indicators to show that we are really moving forward. How many cabbage did we produce per year? The agronomic board is doing so well that once we produce enough, they can close the border, and then we need to buy our own products. That's the direction that we need to go. So I'm expecting that from Mukwe, Ndongalinena, Mashare, and so forth, for the councillors really to come up, even looking at the Kavango West as well, to come up with innovative to produce. We can't be consumers forever. That is wrong, a very wrong approach that we are taking. Because being consumer forever is being slaves to other people forever. We'll be saying, no, our GDP is good. But how many of the products did we produce as the local people? So that is a very serious concern that we really need to look at as we are going from 32 years and beyond. We need now to look at ourselves. What do we have? If we say Namibia is our country, we have our diamond, we have our oil. Who are producing things? Who are not producing things? We can't just be laborers. We can't just be people who are touching things, but then we can't be able to own them. It's wrong as a people. That's how things are going to turn around to be, for us to feel like as if we are left out in everything that is happening in this country. People who are coming from us are going to be better than us because we have nothing. We have nothing at all. So basically, that is it.
Okay, 32 years after independence, we have crocodile attacks. People, for different reasons, either went there for leisure or simply just to fetch water. Mm-hmm. What's your take on the issue of potable water?
This has to do with the policy. Look at the human life conflict policy. It's actually well documented. But the question must be, do our people, do our leaders understand that document or not? Not too long ago, I engaged the Mahahe people when it comes to, before I even come to the crocodile, the river, about the elephant issue. The elephant issue, I sent a letter, very beautiful letter to the Honorable Governor for Kavango West, where I presented to her. I actually narrowed it down, the whole idea on how can we deal with this human and wildlife conflict. That document is well documented. Mr. Muha is also aware of that letter because he's the councillor of Mankumpi constituency. I presented to them that document, that letter where I said those people, they need to pay for the losses that they are going through. Elephant can just come and eat their things. They're not sleeping and all this kind of thing. And those same people, they lack basic services. We're supposed to, in that same policy, human and wildlife conflict policy, it's very clear that we have to sell some of these elephants. Now that we sold those elephants at a very cheaper price, how much is going to come to Mankumpi? Those are the questions that we need to ask ourselves from. Going back to the river is the same story. We have to make sure that every house in Kavango, we have a river, we have aquifer underground water. We need to have potable water in every house. Yeah, every house must have potable water. Where in a white community where you find a white lady with a bucket of water, moving from whatever point to another point. Drilling is not enough. After drilling, pipes must move to houses. That's the only way we can care about these things. Maybe our women can't even have time to make themselves beautiful because they have to have all the time just to transport water, as if they are transport for water. It's not right. Yeah, we cannot still continue consuming water which is not well which is not well for human consumption at all. We need waters in every houses. We need to make sure that people are educated. People are benefiting from this crocodile. It's about selling. We sell. Development must come direct to these people. People must have water. People must have everything that they need. If they have water in their houses, that's one way we're going even to kill many problems with one stone. Because every house is going to have a garden. Every house is going to have an orchard. They need to produce mangoes. Every house is going to, the malnutrition level is going to go down. If you even go to the hospitals, one of the cause of mortality in the under fives are malnutrition, which is not right. When we have water, we have proper land. This is about leadership, management. It must start from there. Yes. Otherwise, with the issue of a crocodile to eat people, this is something that we can be able to curb completely, even including the fishing part. People, this issue also of the ministry being very serious about this policy of fishing. Are people going to catch fish? It must also be relooked at, because people, they are now finding a way to go nighttime and catch fish. These people, we have been surviving using those fish. So it's better to say, let's give them maybe a certain period of time for them to catch fish. When is this period where people fish are breeding and stuff, they need to stop. Then saying not at all unless you have to get a license. Now, it's not everybody can access about whatsoever, and developments about bringing choices to people. Do people at, let's say, people at Ndongalinena, for example, can they be able to access this type of offices for them to get permit unless they have to come to Rundu? So, but they have the river there. Can you look at that? At least with the Ministry of Agriculture, we have the extension officers there. What about the Ministry of Agriculture? We have rivers there. You understand? At least at the councillor's office to come up with an idea of to say, let's have maybe somebody who's dealing with the fishery issue. At least somebody can be able to issue these licenses to people. At least from a certain period to a certain period, they have to catch fish. When they are done with that period, when they said, okay, this time the fish are breeding, they have to stop. To say, okay, let them breed first, then we have a harvesting period. That way it will be better. Yeah. Water issue, the consumption part, and as well as the fishing part. That's where the problem is. We survived. Even me, I grew up catching fish, selling them, barter system. They give us a cup of maize meal, we give them fish. That's how we survived. Now, if you say people must not do that, we have to control it like as if it belongs to a certain individual, then it becomes totally wrong. But if he says because of maybe collecting money, levy and stuff for the regional council to have money, then it's another story. We need to come up with strategy on how can our people do things.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Jabba, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate very much.
Yeah, I thank you too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Taking a look at the weather in the northeast, Rundu and Nkurunkuru are partly cloudy at the moment with skies clearing tomorrow. Spotty showers are expected from Thursday onwards. At Kongola, the weather is partly sunny and comfortable, with the humidity picking up towards the end of the week. Katima is mostly sunny with showers expected over the weekend, and at Kasani, partly cloudy conditions prevail for the rest of this week, along with mild temperatures.
That was it from the northeastern regions. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for another episode of Regional Radio, same time tomorrow. Have a good day.